All right, it looks like it started. Oh, perfect. And Tracie just jumped in. Thanks everybody for joining. Looks like we have about 30 guests and more joining. So we'll welcome them as they come in. Again, thanks for taking, a little bit of time out of your guys' day to join us here. Thank you to my panelists who are here to share their experience about I-Core. My name is Brenna Johansen. I am the recruiter for the Great Plains Hub I-Core team. And so before we kick off and kind of hear intros from our panelists and their experience, I'm going to give a very quick kind of reminder, high-level overview of our program and what we offer. So I-Core is a program through the National Science Foundation. It stands for Innovation Core. And so the focus is taking technology or research that is being done at universities or out in the community and pushing that towards innovation and commercialization to create impact. And so the big emphasis of our program is customer discovery. Our hub, our Great Plains hub, we operate in 6 states. We have panelists from 4 of those, but we are in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, and Kansas. And so because we operate in kind of a large geographical area of the Midwest, our cohorts are run virtually. So our cohorts are a 5-week program where the teams are going to conduct 20 customer interviews, and that's a minimum. You'll actually hear from some of our panelists today who went above and beyond the 20, but the minimum is 20 customer interviews. And so we hope that at the end of the 5 weeks, they're going to have strong qualitative data from those interviews to validate the program, or excuse me, the work that they're doing, the technology that they have, the product that they're building. They're gonna, throughout the 5 weeks, our instructors are gonna teach them on the business model canvas. And so they're gonna learn about value proposition, customer segment. They're gonna form hypotheses, go out, do these interviews, and really find out who is my customer, what impact is my research or my work or my product creating? So we don't want to solve, a small problem. Are we solving large problems? And again, all this is done virtually. So for anyone that's joining and maybe you're in Kansas or South Dakota or whatever state, you can actually be outside of our 6 states and you want to join, just know that we run them virtually. And after our panelists speak, I'm going to go through how you can join our cohorts, where you can find more information about it. But that's kind of our quick overview, and really the emphasis, like I said, is customer discovery. And you're going to hear how that helped these panelists. So we'll go ahead and get started. Tracie, I'll start with you. If you want to just give a quick intro, who you are and kind of what technology project you brought through I-Core.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Tracie Redding. I'm the research director at the University of Nebraska Omaha's STEM Trail Center. So TRAIL stands for Teaching, Research, and Inquiry-Based Learning. And so we have brought basically an ed tech innovation through 2 different I-Core groups or cohorts, the more introductory one that Brenna is talking about, but then we also followed up with what's called Disco 60. And so very quickly, what we are working on improving discussion boards, basically, within, and I don't know how much detail you want me to get into, but right now focused on just undergraduate courses and using AI-supported tools to improve them and to get them to focus on higher order thinking skills. Is there anything else you want me to get into right now, or that's it?
No, that's great, Tracie. Thank you so much. Pedro, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Pedro Cupertino. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Ilios Aerospace. Ilios is a Kansas-based startup. We are working our technology as a light sport aircraft. We are basically creating a new plane that is easier to assemble, easier to manufacture, and also that is cheaper. And this is being possible because of regulation change now, and that basically like our competitors are outdated based on this regulation change. And our intention is to start as a kit manufacturer and transition to a full ready to fly plane.
Awesome. Thank you. Aditya?
Hi, I'm Aditya. I'm the founder and co-founder for Blue Sentinels. And basically, this is a software plus hardware technology in which we are detecting plastics in the oceans, lakes, and rivers. And we are using drones to basically take out the plastics. As you know, like plastics kind of roam around in the water. And when they break down into microplastics, the fish and every marine life consumes it. And later on, basically, those marine life are eaten by us for food. And those microplastics basically travel inside us. And we don't want any health complications, and you must have seen in the news that microplastics are causing like lung cancer and other kind of issues. So that is the issue that we were solving by Blue Sentinels. And that is the technology I brought through ICOPS. Thank you.
Awesome. And what university are you located at?
Oh, I'm at North Dakota State University. Apologies.
Awesome. Thank you. No, you're good. Zach?
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm a senior computer engineering student at School of Mines. The technology that we originally brought into iCore and the technology that came out of iCore are widely different. But the technology we brought in has become massively exploding in the last couple months. But we make American-made UAVs through specialized processes and specialized sensors. The sensor arrays that we specialized in is really what we came out of iCore with. And we've had massive success since December when they banned foreign UAV manufacturers from entering the US. So it's been a little busy for me lately.
Awesome. Thank you. And for everyone listening in, you might be like, wow, none of those, they're maybe associated with each other. They're all very different. And that's because iCore, we're industry agnostic. So we welcome ideas and technology from all industries. And you might even, in your cohort have teams from all over. But you might also maybe share it in an industry with a team, and you guys can share resources and talk to each other. But you're going to hear kind of all different types of technology, and that's what we love in iCore. One of the kind of main topics I want to start with, and we'll actually kind of go backwards. So Zach, I'll put it back on you, but can you each share maybe 1 to 2 key takeaways you got from iCore and the customer discovery process, lessons learned, kind of the 1 or 2 big significant things you learned?
Yeah. I'll kick it off with I myself, I'm an engineering student. Talking to people was not at all my specialty. So I learned that soft skill really well of just how to interview people. They do a really good job of teaching you how to interview people without telling them what your product is. Because that's the real thing. Because as soon as you tell them your product, they want to talk about it. But that's not the goal of iCore. The goal of iCore is figure out the customer's pain points and figuring out how to conduct an interview in that way was a really big one. And then on our company side, by using that interview process, we really saw a gap in the market, especially within our local market that has now expanded nationwide. So we were able to quickly pivot some of our strategy to fill that gap, and it has allowed us to have a massive success from there.
Awesome. Thank you. And anyone else, you guys are welcome to join
So
in
I
your
will
panel.
I will start. So basically, like my hypothesis, like iCorps kind of helped me solidify a lot of hypothesis, and we had some workshops as well. So we just had one hypothesis at first, but like when we kind of went to customer discovery and when we went to again and again interactions with iCorps officer over here, so what we found, like we had like several hypotheses, maybe 4 or 5 that came out of it, and moreover, like we kind of got to know like we have to listen to the customer. It's not like always like how you want to do. So we had to pivot a little bit. So basically, Blue Sentinels was before like called Ocean Sentinels because we were
Mhm.
focused on ocean only at that particular moment because I wanted to protect oceans that time, and sentinels kind of go for like protection of ocean. But like when we did customer discovery in North Dakota, that is landlocked, where oceans are not available, we had to find out ways like how we can pivot something so that it can be spread all over across the US. Then we kind of know, oh, we can go for lakes, we can go for rivers. That kind of thing helped in by ICOS to us.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, definitely no oceans in North Dakota. Tracie, Pedro?
I would add, I would add one thing here. I think 2 takeaways, right? Basically, go talk to the customer and don't fight the facts. Talk to the customer because, like, a Boeing CEO, he already retired, like from the commercial Boeing planes. He mentioned that every business is start and end with the customer, and it's true, right? We are doing something here for someone. I mean, we have an idea of like that our product is gonna solve a problem, but you have to, of course, like make sure that this is correct, like this is what the people need, right? They want to buy for that. And the facts don't fight the facts. Sometimes you have an idea in mind that you want to go for it, but it's not gonna, I mean, people are not interested. So why are you gonna lose our time on it, right? So basically, I think these 2 points basically emphasizing what Zackery and Aditya already said here.
Yeah, great. Tracie, anything to add?
Sure. I honestly, the two different cohorts that I was part of kind of meld together. So I hope I'm not, overstating something that maybe they won't experience in the initial one. But I really think for me, being like a STEM education researcher, it was a mindset shift from the research focus to customer focus that really, to me, was a huge takeaway. And I think Zach, Aditya, and Pedro all kind of the interview process. You have to learn how to be an active listener, and I think that's really hard it just is hard for a lot of people. But not only how do you ask questions, but also how do you actively listen? Like Pedro said, you have to take that input from them, whether or not it confirms or challenges what you initially thought. And I think that was a really good takeaway. We were able to really narrow down our customer segment because of that, and have made strides to really focus on that through other NSF grants and such. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah, kind of one thing you guys all mentioned, is kind of one, speaking to customers and how that can be different than maybe what you were working on when you were coming through. This is my cat Luther, he's joining. But in I-Corps, we always kind of use the phrase, we're gonna have our teams kind of bring their heads up from the research, from the labs. A lot of times, our teams are so passionate about what they're doing, they're very heads down, working on it, and we're gonna encourage them to kind of put their heads up, kind of change their mind set when they're talking to customers. And so I think everybody, my panelists could agree that it gets easier, the interviewing, the talking to people right away. It's maybe a little stiff, maybe a little uncomfortable, but it does get easier. One thing I heard a few of you mentioned is the word pivot. So we hear that a lot in I-Corps. I think entrepreneurs in general hear that word a lot. Would anyone like to share kind of the pivots that they made during I-Corps, and how that maybe strengthened their product or the work that they're doing?
I can start on that. So basically, I had an initial idea, a hypothesis that like my customer segment would be specific, like engineers or everyone interested in aerospace. And you usually start broad like that because we don't understand like the customer segment yet. So calling people, we could figure out like that we had to go for like not young people, would be like kind of older, close to retirement. They would have more time. They would have the income to kind of buy an aircraft because I'm selling kind of a kit initially, a kit. So people would have like need time and money to put on that plane, right? They buy the kit and they have to build, assemble themselves. This is the first. The second one was about the design of the aircraft. We figured out like talking to the customer, would answer a lot of questions related to the design. And one that we had initially, the idea of my plane was amphibious. And now we figured out it should be modular because half of the people interviewed, they wanted to be amphibious. And the other half, they just want land-based. So basically these two pivots that we had in the design.
Awesome. Thank you.
I can
Anyone
start
else?
next.
Yeah.
So as I told you already, like we were first called Ocean Sentinels and we tried to serve the oceans at first, but we kind of pivoted to blue because we wanted to serve a larger people over here. Like when we did the customer discovery, everybody was in North Dakota was like, what's the point of Ocean Sentinels your customer discovery is doing like in North Dakota? Like what's the point of it? Because we don't face any kind of plastic issues in the water. We don't face this, we don't face that. So like it was kind of dry for us at a moment, but then we kind of pivoted like, oh, but somebody suggested like, oh, why don't you go for rivers and lakes? And we kind of like then not partnered, basically like we kind of approached a nonprofit over here that is called River Keepers, and we are presenting the board of directors on Wednesday, that is tomorrow, to them about the Blue Sentinels, and we got to know like, okay, we can serve lakes, rivers, and oceans as well. And we don't have to restrict ourselves or in the software basis to the plastic itself. We can go for harmful algae blooms and others with the software that we are building. And then we build the hardware, and that's how we pivoted from ocean sentinels to blue sentinels as a whole ecosystem for treating lakes, rivers, and oceans.
Awesome. Thank you. Zach, Tracie, any pivots?
I can jump in. I had to go look at my old iCore workbook to even see where we started because we changed drastically from the beginning to the end. But when we started in, we were really just a UAV manufacturing company that met federal government regulations. So the federal government declares what you have to be considered American made and operate with them. So we were really targeting kind of that federal government overall, state government market. And doing some of the interviews with them and going through it, we quickly found that there's actually more of a demand for American-made UAVs in the energy sector. The energy between power and gas, they have almost identical requirements of safety as the federal government. So their standards were equivalent, but there was no one directly targeting that. So by the end of iCore, we pivoted to the energy sector and actually had a whole new technology developed and patented out of that process, targeting energy customers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can add to that. Ours was definitely a customer segment pivot. When we started the initial cohort, because the research was based around simply just any and all undergraduate STEM faculty that taught online courses. And so through the customer discovery, we actually were able to narrow down to focusing more on actual two-year colleges specifically, and then not the faculty necessarily, but the instructional designers turned out to actually be the decision makers and who we should target in terms of marketing. And so, those value propositions are different for each customer segment. And so through that process, we were able to develop a solid value proposition and, the problem and solution and all of that geared specifically toward instructional designers at two-year colleges.
So I think for people listening, kind of one thing that everybody shared through their pivots is they wouldn't have found those pivots or made those pivots without hearing what their customers were saying. And so I think maybe people listening are like, 20 customer interviews, like who do I ask? Where do I find these people? So can anyone on my panel share, where did you find these people to interview? Were you using LinkedIn? Was it business connections? Because one thing that we teach in iCore is it should be someone you don't know. So it shouldn't be a family member, a best friend, someone who can add bias. In iCore, we really teach as much as we can to remove bias. And so that's why we also don't encourage our teams to talk about their technology when they're doing these interviews. It's very much about the customer and about the problems that they're facing or their daily operations. And so would anyone like to share, maybe how many customer interviews they did, where they found these customers, kind of give some insight on that?
Yeah, all right. I go. I think we did 105 interviews during the 5 weeks. Basically, in the first interviews, I start calling people that I knew they're like, or like were aerospace related, not exactly friends, but people related. And I could notice that like, oh, it's not exactly my public here, my customer segment, but they start mentioning some specific keywords. And it took a lot of notes through like the interviews, like the full team, like the Ilios team, they took a lot of notes on that. So we start understanding that basically we had like, okay, experimental aircraft was the keyword there. So we started looking for, okay, organizations or in LinkedIn or whatever, like websites. And there is an organization like exactly United States, around the United States, all states, that is for experimental aircraft. That is basically my kind of, my aircraft too, right? The category that I fit. So they had like a full website, like with thousands of people there. And basically I started like reaching every chapter and calling people and like asking more questions and kind of tailoring more, defining more my scope there, the people that I would interview. And it was how I could find like so many people. But basically, as you could find like define the customer segment, it was easier to go for like to find the specific organizations or the specific people you wanted to interview, right? To ask the questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I can jump in. I just looked, completed 37 interviews with ours. And the way we got our beginning interviews, I had to go look up what they're actually called. ICOR calls them industry mentors. I personally call them the adult because we're undergrads and it was an older person. We called him our adult. But our industry mentor, we got paired up with Minds, was really great. He had a lot of connections in the sectors that we were looking for, so he would get us the foot in the door with one of our closing customer interviews with the customer was typically, who do you think we should go talk to next? And a lot of times that would unlock our next interview and our next interview within that sector. We were targeting, I think, 3 sectors at the time, and we just kind of spanned out through those sectors based on other recommendations. And then some of them, that was really good for our power and energy sector, our law enforcement sector and military sector. We got lucky with university connections there. Universities have a lot more connections. So we went to our industry relations department and they pointed us every way to go. And then our last sector, we used iCore because it was easy, or not iCore, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
iCore, there's like a training that they gave us. It's like how to use LinkedIn's iCore thing. So that was how we got to our final market.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jump in. So basically, like I started as a possibility fellow, that is a fellowship at North Dakota State University for entrepreneurs. So when I went there, like basically I first interviewed like students all over the student body because like our custom, like for me, at first it was like I had to serve the people, so people will be the customer, general people. But then I kind of expanded to a downtown where I just stood over there and I talked to people over there to kind of interview them what they think about plastic and others. But then I kind of realized like, oh, they will not pay for us. They will be appreciating the technology and everything. Then we kind of pivoted like to government people because government people are the people who coastal areas and anybody where they kind of handle the plastic cleanup and the reports that clean. So we went to like conferences that were held in North Dakota, basically an emerging period over here, where we kind of, I jumped in and like there were panel discussions of governors, senators and others. And I jumped in and I kind of asked them, can I have a minute and talk to them? And they gave the insight, like I had Cass County governor and others. Then I went basically like to nonprofits because like there's ocean cleanup in California side that kind of does the same thing that we are trying to do, but they do it at a large scale. So we went for a local nonprofit over here that is River Keepers, and that's how we kind of went for around 40 customers interviews during the 5 weeks in iCorps.
Awesome. And Tracie will, when she shares, she'll have a very unique experience because she's actually done this twice. So
yeah. So I think we got 25 in the first cohort. And honestly, because at that time we were focused on any and all undergraduate faculty, I literally just walked around campus. I know a lot of the folks in the STEM fields, but because our tool is not specific to STEM, I could just go talk to philosophy faculty, talk to English faculty. So I literally just walked around buildings looking for people with their doors open. And just that's how I started, like literally just getting out of the lab. I know is something that iCore kind of really hits on quite a bit, but I literally just walking around. And then same as I think, Zackery mentioned, who else should I talk to? Who else can I talk to? And that was how pretty quickly got to 25. Now, when we did the Disco 60, and Aditya did this as well, I actually attended a conference, AI and Education Summit at MIT, where got a lot of really great interviews there. And that's where a lot of more like instructional designers were present. It was a little bit more K-12 focused, but there were some higher ed folks there as well. So yeah, I would say both of those. And then using the industry mentor definitely hooked us up with a lot in that Disco 60 timeframe cohort.
awesome. And for people listening, they're like, what is Disco 60? You guys are having a dance party or something. Disco 60 is kind of a mini nationals maybe, or a super regional cohort. So our typical cohort that all of our participants have done is called a regional cohort. There is a program called National I-Corps, and that is 7 weeks, 100 customer interviews, and $50,000 in financial support. And so nationals is very exclusive, very qualifying. And so you need to complete a regional and then go on to do nationals. And so we wanted to create a cohort where teams who are maybe waiting or applying for nationals, but want to do more customer discovery can partake, but something that's a little more challenging than our typical regional. And so Disco 60, we ran it for the first time last summer, and it's short for Discovery 60. So it was 60 customer interviews in 7 weeks. We also expanded on the business model canvas, and so we covered a couple more touch points that aren't typically covered in the curriculum in the 5 week. And so kind of leads into my question on the actual kind of lecture portion, the 5 weeks that you guys did. For people listening, maybe they're curious, like what is the time that it takes for me to do it? What if I don't, have that in my schedule? Why do they keep mentioning an industry mentor? So before I turn it over to my panelists, just for anyone listening, a typical team in I-Corps is 3 people: the entrepreneurial lead, which is the people that we're interviewing here today. They're kind of the heavy lifter of the team. They're gonna take charge and do a lot of the work, the customer interviewing, the data collecting, the presenting during the lectures. And then an industry mentor. This is a kind of a third party, someone who has experience maybe in the industry they're looking at, or maybe they have entrepreneurial experience themselves, but they're going to come alongside and offer advice and expertise. And it sounds like they did that for you all. And then there's usually a technical lead. So a lot of times this can be a faculty member or maybe a business partner, someone who's very well versed in the work that the team is doing. To come alongside and help that entrepreneurial lead. We see teams that are less than 3 people, more than 3 people, but that's kind of the sweet spot, if you will. And so kind of the question that I have for you guys, and again, anyone can answer, but can you talk a little bit about the workload, the lectures? We offer, one-on-one with instructors. Can you kind of just talk about your general experience of going through the weekly lectures?
Yep. So my case here. The team from like I-Corps in Wichita, Kansas here, it was kind of outstanding. Like they had like already business background, or they had a good understanding about like how operation, like how a business work. And basically they're very they were kind, they were not nice, right? They are polite, asking helping us to answering our questions, but they are honest. So if they see that like you're not doing, you should change. Like they kind of try to guide us on this, right? For example, some students, in my case as well, sometimes like we had an initial idea and we're stuck on that, and they kind of say like they are honest. I think you should think about maybe this thing or this other topic because might be more associated. You should check that too. They kind of give us some hints. Of course, they don't know too. They want us to work and understand the business thing. So the team was very capable, like very understandable about the things, but they are honest and they help, and they yeah, is what I like to say about them. It's a good experience. It takes like a lot of time after the meeting. It's not the meeting itself. The meeting is just one day, but you have to, if you want your business to succeed, people want the business to succeed, they have to go and do a lot of work, like interview, do the design, the improve the product through the interviews after the outputs from that. And it's kind of, I mean, it's not that it's gonna take all week, but it's gonna require some time. And it's part of the process, right? It's not gonna change in one day. You're gonna have to be working through the weeks and improving every week. It's like by steps. So it's what I like to say about the I-Corps thing.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else?
I can go. Tracie, please go ahead.
So I looked at, or I think of the 2 different cohorts a little bit differently. I feel like the first one was just kind of dipping your toes into the idea of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And very much like Pedro said, and so I focus on inquiry-based learning, and I felt like it was a practice of inquiry throughout the process. They kind of had an idea potentially where you should maybe go, but they would ask you questions so that you came up with it yourself. They weren't telling you exactly what to do, just like what Pedro said. So for me, it was more of a mindset shift, like I had mentioned at the beginning, from researcher to more like, okay, thinking like an entrepreneur. But then the Disco 60 was way like a lot more in depth. Like Brenna mentioned, like the actual like business model, really thinking through different customer segments, different value propositions. And that really, I feel like, gave me a much better idea of what it actually takes to be an entrepreneur. So I don't know if that helps between kind of between the two. But that was my experience anyway. So both incredibly, incredibly valuable. But yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, Tracie. Aditya?
Yeah, so ours was a little bit different because I came through Possibility Fellow through Center for Entrepreneurship at North Dakota State University. So in a way, like I had two mentors from university. That was basically Dr. Chad Olin and Dr. Jessica Boyd. And then from Center for Entrepreneurship, we had Dr. Only Nordstrom. That was like mentor for our Possibility Fellow. So we had a like collective, I would say collective like panel and which was guiding us. And during one-on-one, like I had two mentors, Dr. Irwin and Dr. Void, who kind of gave different perspective on the customers. That's how we were able to pivot things. And they kind of shaped the things, like concreted our hypothesis, like they cross-questioned us, like why the hypothesis was correct, or why are you thinking this hypothesis is good, why this customer segment you need in this area, why don't you go for this customer segment, why don't you try this and that. And that's how we kind of shaped ourselves, and that's where we are, and we matured in a really positive way.
Awesome. Thanks. Zach, anything to add?
Ours was a lot different, so I won't add too much because we were of course an undergrad team with non-university affiliated IP. So we're kind of doing a lot different than a lot of I-Core projects. On top of that, the meeting time overlapped between me and the other person that processed classes. So he took the first hour, I took the second hour, and we had 10 minutes during the break to quickly swap information that everyone needed to know what was going on. But it was great. We got a lot of info out of it. We learned a lot of how the ecosystem kind of model works within I-Core, and kind of learned how that works and built out our own model based off that. That was really helpful going forward.
And it sounds like you actually have plans to go through a regional again with a different idea, or maybe an extension of what you're currently working on.
Yes. We have a newer division that's in defense technologies that's going through in March.
One kind of reason I like to ask that question is because I think maybe people who are weary about joining I-Core, they're maybe, wondering, one, what is the workload like? But two, is it just you have one meeting and they're like, okay, go do 20 customer interviews and we'll see at the end of the 5 weeks? And the answer is no. Our instructors are hands-on. There are weekly check-ins, there are office hours. They by no means are gonna, hold your hand and point you in a specific direction, but they are there to encourage you and help you think through the findings that you are getting through these customer interviews and help point you in a direction. And so, as Tracie mentioned, it's kind of dipping our toes in commercialization. Our director likes to always say we're not going, 0 to 100 in commercialization. I-Core is, maybe 0 to 0.1 or 0.5. We're very much getting you kind of a firm foundation, a great starting point on where you should go from there. And there's many directions that you can go after I-Core, and that might be further customer discovery. So maybe doing another cohort, maybe doing nationals. Maybe you are looking for funding, more funding opportunities. So there are different programs through NSF, SBIRs, SCTRs. Maybe you're looking to develop a mentorship. You're trying to connect with venture capitalists or different organizations in your state or your area. And so I-Core can kind of be that diving board for your next steps. And so That's just kind of, like I said, one question I like to cover because I think sometimes people just have, questions about what it would be like, what the curriculum is. We do say a typical like 8 to 10 hours a week. You can kind of set aside for your workload. Some is less, some is more, like Pedro says. But thanks so much for those answers, guys. I do have a couple kind of one-off questions for people specifically. And so, one thing, Aditya, that you mentioned is, you came through doing a fellow cohort. And so people might be thinking, like Tracie did a Disco 60, Aditya is coming through fellows, like there's regular, there seems to be all of different types of cohorts. And the answer is yes and no. No being that we are teaching the same curriculum across all the cohorts. The difference being that some are more thematic. And so Aditya was one of those fellows, those possibility fellows at NDSU. So we ran a specific cohort for them. You'll see on our website, I think a link is going to be posted in the Q&A section. But sometimes we run cohorts that have themes. So there might be an AI themed. We've run a UAS and bioscience theme. And so you can always keep your eyes out on that, but just know that any cohort you join, we're going to cover our same core curriculum. But I really want to focus kind of on you, Aditya, being a graduate student and a kind of deep in the thick of your research. Can you talk about your experience of kind of taking your research through iCourse? So some people here are taking like a product or technology, maybe further along the commercialization process, but you, I'm sure, are still going to have kind of a long path of research. How has iCore and customer discovery benefited your research versus, a built product that people have?
So to be honest, like I'm kind of go come into the category of technical founder where as a grad student, we love our research. We make it as a temple where we worship things. But when you go through ICOPS, you kind of get to know like you don't have to love everything that you're making. You have to see what people are also asking for. You might think in your head like this is the world-class technology, what you're building and everything, but you have to also see the needs of the people, like what do they need in the market right now. So in that way, like when I see the research, like, I kind of got to know like, okay, it's not just the research advancement, it's also like how you kind of communicate with the people and how you present your technology to the people so that they can benefit from that. It's not just like going there and just typing some codes or like doing progressing in the research paper, but also communicating with people and bringing it forward for the people to use it. And I know it's a long road, but I think like I got the foundation of the entrepreneur with the iCorps over here, such that like I know like okay, once I kind of graduate, I know like how I can pivot myself to become a real entrepreneur and what resources I need and like where are people I can find to kind of communicate with them, be with them and like progress in that way. So I think like that helped me give me a second or fourth pillar in my own like positive progress, like where I can see like okay, I can become an entrepreneur. It's not just like academic career that I have to go through.
Yeah, awesome. And can you kind of share, and I'm going to give everyone here a chance to share too, but Aditya, what are your kind of goals, your plans moving forward? So you've completed iCore. Where do you plan to take that work next?
So if I get like I have talked to Generator or like it's a venture capitalist, so I went through Generator as well. So they're like they kind of told about the technology. I kind of got to know like investors from, mentors from, and others. So they also gave me a little bit foundation over there, like how it is, how the venture capitalists run, and like how things work in real life. It's not just like academic life. So for my future, like I have applied for different accelerators right now to kind of see where things go, and I will move forward from that. But right now, like I will go for like academia in a way, and on side by side till the technology is matured enough to go for fully full for the entrepreneurship over there. Then I will kind of pivot towards the entrepreneurship. But right now, like it will be like side by side working full time on my academic career and as well as my entrepreneurship career, so that like both go hand in hand, and I don't have to bear any kind of consequences over the time.
Yeah, well, you have your hands full, and we wish you well as you move forward. Zach, can you kind of share? And you're unique in that you are an undergrad, and so most teams that we see in I-Corps are typically graduate students or even outside of academia, but we do welcome undergrads, and so Zach recently graduated or is graduating in the spring, correct?
Yes, in the spring.
And so can you kind of talk about what that was like going through I-Corps as an undergrad, but then also can you share kind of what your plans are, where you guys are at now and kind of where you'll be going?
Yeah. I believe we went through I-Corps in very early stages with this region. So we were one of the beginning undergrad teams, it was different. Like I said, we called our industry mentor the adult because we looked at ourselves as children, who were going through this process. So we had to take a step back as engineers and be like, we don't know anything about this. So I would say our team put in a lot more effort in learning all the business side stuff because we just weren't sure of any of it. With also balancing an undergrad course load, I believe both of us were at 18 credits that semester, as well as in another incubator with the state of South Dakota's biotech program. Um, so on Wednesdays alone, when we had this session, I think I sat in uh 4 hours of product discovery meetings, which was great. We learned so much that we were able to launch our company within about 3 months of finishing I-Corps. So totally would recommend. It takes some balance, and it also um is a little different on our side as an undergrad doing customer interviews just because you are so young. So our industry mentor really helped us out getting us in the door and vouching for our credibility, but not having a research background, just being undergraduate students, you kind of have to approach problems slightly differently than some of our grad students, full-time researchers, or even those already in industry. Um, but it's totally doable, and was great experience from there. Going forward, Airborne Dynamics has been running since April of 25, I don't remember. We've been operating and selling products since then. Going forward, I will probably in the next 6 months fully be stepping down from the CEO position to do our new spin-off, which is Airborne Defense, which primarily sits in the defense contracting for UAVs, working with a lot of these customers in the UAV market. And we continue to do customer discovery to this day. We try to hit 5 customers a month, not a week. We're not hitting that goal anymore. But we're still talking to customers, getting out there. We really learned that there's a lot of lack of UAV information in the defense market and solutions. So that whole new company will be going through I-Corps in March, um, and we'll see where that one goes.
I was muted. I said, awesome. Sounds like you have a busy spring. But thanks for sharing, Zach. And before I jump to Tracie, I just want to mention to everyone who's watching, if you all have any questions, at the bottom of your screen, there is the Q&A, the little chat icon with the question. If you guys have any questions for our panelists or for the I-Corps team in general, please post them in there. We'll kind of have a section at the end for it. But Tracie, can you kind of share what your guys' next steps are? You did 2 different cohorts of customer discovery. Where are you guys headed next?
For sure. So ours is very actually research focused. So something we got funding through NSF to even develop it. The initial product is actually a dashboard both for students and instructors. And so what was great through the customer discovery is we found out, right, that 2-year community colleges, that's where a big gap is, and a need and a desire to really focus on those higher order thinking skills in the discussion board. So through customer discovery, we actually made partners with 2 local community colleges, and we just submitted an additional IUs that will focus this time on the interactive agent product that would accompany the dashboard eventually when they, within a product suite. So that's the next immediate step. One thing that I can tell you all, I am much older. I am not an undergraduate. I am a doctorate. I have been in the education field for 20 plus years. I have a family, have two teenagers. So we are partnering with Unitech. So I don't know how many universities have those partners. Their goal is specifically to help university IP associated products through with that more business and side of things. And so we have brought in somebody from that onto our current grant that we just submitted. And actually part of their time will be to help us disseminate. So we called her a communication specialist. So how do we best synthesize, the research part and communicate that to a broader audience in terms of, investors and et cetera. So that was something that we were intentional about with this next round of potential and hopeful funding. Knock on wood.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tracie. We wish you luck as well. Pedro, do you want to share kind of what your guys' next steps are for Ilios Aerospace?
Yeah, I can share some. I mean, we have like technical and business aspects, things that we are moving forward now. Technical, like you're still in the design, so we're still figuring out some specific things, reorganizing the system requirements, more engineering. But I mean, we keep doing the interviews because every time that we have a question related to the design, we try to validate with more interviews, people what they think about it, the customer. In the business aspect, we want to keep more like go to Discovery 60 and nationals. We keep participating in competitions too, to get more feedback, not just also from the customers, for the industry, to understand maybe things that we could improve. And it's also part of like help us with some income because we have testing to do like after we finish the design. So design, build, and test. We have to build and we have to do the testing. So the income is also part, right? It's part of the business and the operations. These are kind of the next steps, things that we're thinking to do now.
And actually, it was Zach's industry mentor, Mitch, right? That was your industry mentor? Yeah,
Yes.
so I was in a meeting with him one time, and I kind of close all my I-Core webinars or my talks with this, but he said that, until someone does customer discovery, the work that they're doing, the research that they're producing, the technology that they're building is simply a hobby, and a lot of times an expensive one and a time-consuming one. And so these panelists have taken the time to do the customer discovery, and it looks like it's been fruitful for them. And so each of them are kind of headed in different paths, but sounds like customer discovery was a benefit to all of them. And so we have a couple questions coming in, one of them being about participant support. And so, yes, there is typically participant support for cohorts. So when I say that it's a free program, that means that it is free to join. But depending on which cohort you're joining, there is usually an option to receive support, and that support is to be used for customer discovery. So Aditya mentioned he went to a conference. We're happy to put that support towards people going to conferences. You're going to rack up a lot of customer interviews at conferences, especially when the people there are also interested in the work that you're doing. You know what I mean? If you're going to a conference in that same industry, you're going to be able to get a lot of interviews. If you need to up your LinkedIn, maybe LinkedIn Premium to find people, that participant support can cover that. It definitely varies based off the cohort. And so we just ask that when you sign up for a cohort, if you have those specific questions, a lot of times it's going to be listed there, but that will be specified more by each cohort. So you can always reach out to our team and we can answer that. Obviously with Disco 60 being more customer interviews, there was more participant support. Nationals, like I mentioned, is $50,000. And so very much varies, but there usually is that option. And so you can just ask. Looks like we got some other questions. Michael's answering those. One thing I want to mention, if there are any international students that are listening and they're wondering if they can participate in I-Core, the answer is yes. Because we have 6 states, 11 partner universities, we do ask that whichever university you are tied to, you talk to your specific international students office. Everybody kind of has different guidelines for how they handle international students with their visas and their hours that they're allotted. And so very much welcome to international students. We'll just work with you and your international student office to make sure that you're not going over hours and that you're able to participate. But the answer is definitely yes. One thing I want to, and guess I won't speak for the panelists, but if people want to reach out to you guys after, where can they find you? LinkedIn? I'll let you guys kind of share.
I can jump in. People can reach out either through email, through phone, or through LinkedIn. Like I'm happy to answer and like connect with anybody who is willing to connect with me. So these three platforms are where like I'm mostly active. And I would literally prefer LinkedIn because it kind of keeps the conversation over there and like keeps you updated if you post something. So LinkedIn is the best way for to communicate.
Awesome. LinkedIn sounds like it's kind of good for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect. That's where you guys can also find me for any specific iCore questions. You can go to our website. I believe our website was posted in the Q&A. You can find more about our program there under events are all of our upcoming cohorts. We run close to 24 each year. We'll run about 22 last year. We're hoping to run, close to 24 this year. They kind of are cyclical in that they're, fall, winter, spring, summer. So make sure you take the time to find the kind of that 5-week window that works for you and your schedule. The 5-week lectures are listed in the listing under the event. And so, like I said, you'll be able to see specifically those dates for those 5 weeks. If you do have questions, you can always reach out to us. Aditya, Zach, Tracie, Pedro, thank you so much for joining and sharing your experiences. People might think you guys are paid actors because you did so well and answered them the way that I needed. But we know that iCore is a different experience for everyone. So thank you for sharing that. And if you guys have any other closing questions, just make sure I'm not missing it. I will let you guys go. But thanks everyone for joining and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you, Brenna.
Thank you very much.